You're always talking about this like hypothesis that you have about the start of farming.
Yeah, so the basics of this is that farming sucks and it's really, really hard, and it's a lot better to just go around and go fishing and not reach a carrying capacity. So people want to know, why the hell would you start farming in the first place? And at first we kind of thought that was just because, you know, we needed bread and the bread was necessary for people to be able to eat. But what a lot of people are coming to right now, and something that I really subscribe to, is beer. All right, it might not have been beer just as it is, but alcohol. Grains make great alcohol. And so there's a hypothesis that since we see alcohol in a lot of these places like the Levant Valley and the places where civilizations start to form, that it is possible that they would have like a gathering place, and the gathering place was for parties, all right? And that they started growing things because it was fertile, and they settled down because they really needed people to make their alcohol. And so all of civilization, for all its good and its bad and what it's progressing to and what it has been, it may well owe itself to libations. And cheers to farming if it brings us beer.
If you look over on the other side of the road, there's even sections that have windows and definitely were carved out of the side. Over here, somebody's put up a makeshift door so they can have some privacy. Maybe it's the sheep herder that was over there, but this is it, man. This is one of like 4 options as the cradles of all civilization, and it's just sitting here by the side of the road waiting for you to come see it. So come see it.
Originally, this was just gonna be a short video about a cool castle, but when we got there was so much more to the site itself. But first we are going to talk about the castle, but definitely make sure you guys stay tuned because we learned so much about the Levant Valley.
One of our pit stops along the way on our road trip here is Al-Karak, and Al-Karak is very unique here because it's got a medieval castle, and part of that is because this was a very important place on the trade routes during the Crusades. So this would trade hands a few different times, and each person would try to fortify it a little bit better. It's a really nicely preserved castle, and we're gonna go check it out.
And what you're gonna see outside the castle is all these signs for the Archaeological Museum. So we definitely wanted to check that out before we went and toured the castle. And I'm glad we did. It was a small little museum, but it did have a lot of information. And what I thought was really cool is they had some artifacts that you could tell were thousands of years old, and then they had some more recent history, and it's a really great place to see a macro overlook of the site and of the area in general.
This valley's been used by humans for a very long time. It started out as much as 1.5 million years ago, where you had paleo hunters coming in and out of the area, and they found evidence of that. And then in about 13,000 BC, this is one of the first places where you see people start to settle into a agrarian society. They start to farm and things like that. Crop cultivation starts at about 10,200, and you start to see the use of pottery. Another thing that's kind of similar to the only other place I've ever been that has this kind of antiquity is the housing style looks really similar to what we saw in Cyprus. And then they start using copper, and they've got the Copper Age, and then the Bronze Age, and then the Iron Age. And each time this town becomes a little bit more and more important. They have some of the artifacts that they have in here from these time periods, and then you've got Babylon coming in, so now you're getting into more of the things that we learn in our history books. And then you've got the start from here on, you've got caliphates that are in charge of Al-Karak. And so it goes from Rashidun Caliphate, which I don't know a whole lot about, to the Umayyads, which are very important, and then the Abbasids that are very important, and then the Fatimids, and these are all things that you learn about in the history books. During this period of time, it's when the Christians start to crusade for the Holy Land, and many times they actually come to this castle and they try to defeat the castle. But at least according to this and a little bit of reading that I've read, it may have changed hands from different Muslim faiths and caliphates to each other, but it really never seems to have fallen to the Christians.
And I love me a good timeline, but that was a really long, drawn-out timeline. There was a lot of important stuff, and I hope that you appreciated it, and I thank you for sticking with me for that.
Yeah, and it was really informative, but it was about time to actually go into the ruins, which is really what we enjoy doing. And I liked crawling in all the tunnels and just admiring the architecture.
Wow.
See this? Yeah. Really impressive. One of the things that I really like about here is there's a lot of open space inside, and it really takes a lot of math to make an arch that big. And especially is impressive because of how irregular all of the stones are. Because usually if you see these things, they're put together with really masterfully made stones that bunch up against each other. If this hasn't been reconstructed, it's a marvel. It's really cool. Even if it was reconstructed, they did a good job. And that is a lot of space to cover under roof at that time period.
You know how we love to see things in ruins, but in case you guys can't imagine it, we actually did go into like a reconstructed version of it, so you can see it all walled in and just how impressive that archway really was. But what really makes this place special is its commanding view over the city and over the Levant Valley, which would have been very important at the time.
So that building we saw with the arch that we were pointing out is actually the Crusaders' church. And most of the alcove here, they believe would have been housing for like the guards and people in the castle.
As it turns out, this place was conquered by the Crusaders. At least that's what the translation says, is that there was a Crusaders church up here. So I don't see that in the timeline down there. Maybe a little bit of revisionary history, or maybe it's just a translation that was the Byzantine church, and the Byzantines I wouldn't say qualified as Crusaders per se, at least not the way that we think of them. But either way, there was a church here, and it doesn't date from the Roman time, so it was sometime later.
This castle's huge, and it's also really well preserved. I mean, just probably because of how well preserved it is, it seems larger than Spitz Castle in Slovakia. I'm not entirely positive if it is or not, but it is really big. It's got many different layers. It's got really commanding view over the city. They do offer a guide, and probably recommend doing it because the site is so large and because there's not very many interpretive signs pretty much anywhere. But it's really pretty, even if you just want to come here and take pictures. It's a nice little stop if you're in the area.
So chalk one up for TripAdvisor. This place was really cool, and it was not on my radar when I was originally planning this, but the castle was definitely worth it. One thing that most bloggers and vloggers don't talk about with Karak Castle though is that view, and it was.
Yeah, the castle was cool, the view was awesome, but as we've kind of mentioned before, what made that place so important was the surrounding area and the importance of the Levant Valley for history and for maybe all of civilization.
People have fought for this area for centuries, but that's not even the most important thing about what you see behind me. This is the Levant Valley, and it's part of the Fertile Crescent and has a really strong argument that this may have been the first place that people practiced agriculture. When you start to practice agriculture, you get civilization. So it's possible that this place was the site of civilization's beginning. And then a lot of uncivilized war and fighting over this between the Greeks coming with Alexander the Great, and then with Trajan coming over and annexing the area, and then it's Byzantine Christian after Hadrian, and then it becomes a bunch of different Muslim entities that fight over it and then defend this city against the crusaders. But it's seen a lot of conflict, but more important to me, it saw the beginning of farming and the beginning of civilization as we know it, and it's really rare to come to a place that has that much significance for all of us.
But as always, I was getting pretty hungry, especially because it is a really big castle, so you're out there for a couple hours. So we decided to go in town and look around, and luckily we found like one place that was open and was able to get a little snack.
So everything is closing for the Sabbath, and we did want to grab a little bit something else to eat. But we haven't done a whole lot of sweets yet. And so there's this really cool little bakery here on the side. They've got a nice little oven and an assortment of sweets and a couple of things that look like they're savory over there. So we're just gonna grab a couple of these things to go. We got lost on our way out of Karak because of a bunch of like traffic jams, and it took us down this road through this valley. And we're looking up to the side and we're seeing all these terraces and caves. And it may be in just this type of an area that agriculture first started for the entire world. And I studied agriculture in the Maya area, and these terraces would hold the limited amount of water that came down and allow you to build up soil so you could grow things. And if this cave is what I expect it to be, this is close to our roots, people. This is close to what made us what we are today.
As we were walking back to our car, we came across this little bakery sweet shop. So we had to try a couple of things, and we wanted to find a nice place to eat it. And what better place than a cave that may have belonged to our prehistoric ancestors, and they would have used it for farming so they could sit together and break bread.
It was definitely grains that they would have first settled down for, and a lot of people do think that that was for bread and things like that. But one of my favorite hypotheses is that they actually settled down because they wanted beer, which is also made with the same things that you make bread for. So it's very possible that the people who lived in this cave were the first people to actually settle down, farm. Their life would have been a whole lot harder than hunter-gathering, so they had to have some sort of drive to do it. And it probably wasn't bread, because I like meat a lot better than bread, but it could be beer, because beer's pretty daggum good, and it's an excuse to party. And this has been like a party. Our view here is just awesome. We have got the Karak Castle off to the right. We just had a bunch of sheep and goats and dogs run across the ridge on the other side. And this place is still used today. We can see some signs like litter and places where they've slept. You also can see some smoke damage and things like that. I can't prove that this was somewhere where the first people would have stayed, but it definitely looks a lot more like it than anywhere else I've ever been. What's it like, Brent?
It's good. It's got really mild sweetness to it, and it's fig on the inside, and I really like figs.
Yeah, it tastes like Hawaiian bread with a little bit of fig to it. I will say it's very dry, though. I'm glad we brought water.
It's a little dry.
Not sure what it's called. If you guys know, you can tell us on the bottom. We were just like, hey, this, and this. Because Karak, although it has a touristy area to it, it is not overly touristy. So everybody that we met outside of the tourist hub really didn't speak much English at all. So it's more points and shoot. We have some sesame balls. I'm not sure
That's
what
their
they're
name.
called.
Yep, sesame balls.
We got delicious looking sesame balls, and they have sesame seeds all over them. And we had a kid come up to us, and I think he wanted money, but we were able to bribe him with a couple of these, and he got super excited. So I'm expecting these to be delicious. Oh, Absolutely correct. The sesame is strong. You can tell that they've been charred here. There's a paste inside of it. I think it's the same fig paste, so it's kind of like if you took like a toasted sesame and wrapped it around a fig Newton and made it more moist.
Ooh, that sounds awesome.
This is freaking
I gotta have one of these.
We got one more thing. And this looks really moist. And I'll let you try it first and tell everybody about it. Oh, it's gonna be hard for it to top the sesame. Although this is the thing that looked the prettiest. They made this in this giant pan and then they cut it all up. It looks like they poured honey all over it.
Yeah, it's nice and sticky and heavy. You can tell there's a lot of honey in this. It looks like some sort of legume. I don't think it's a peanut. It's very white, and I think there might be some coconut in there too.
My mouth is watering.
Oh, that's really good. I don't think it actually has coconut, but it does have the like coconut pastry like texture, almost like cornbread. Actually has a little bit of a corn flavor to it. But obviously the first taste is definitely honey. And
Daddy needs.
it is a peanut. It's just been boiled, so it has like a white color to it. That's good.
Cheers to whoever decided to start farming. I'm glad I'm not a farmer. I love you guys who are farmers. And cheers to you. Cheers to Karak. You guys should stop by here. And you should climb up the side of a hill and see the terraces and the caves. And maybe the goats will come see you. I think they went on the other side. They should have come by. I think I have to just keep walking this ridge because check this out, guys. Seriously. Not only could this and was this used by our ancestors, you've got cutouts for tombs in here. And these are the type of tombs, you see the cut, there's a drop down here with the ledge. And somebody has recently dug this out, like, oh.
That tomb was really cool, and you don't normally get so close to tombs, and so it was really interesting to see that. But on the other side of that, there is a reason that you cannot get close to things, and you guys will not believe what we found there.
So when I came in here, you could see that this was just recently dug up, and this is kind of like, this is why you have to protect these spots. All right, I'm gonna be real frank with you. This actually breaks my heart and pisses me off because I'm seeing human vertebrae. I'm seeing a human femur here. I've got a collarbone and a rib. And I don't know what they were digging in here for. I don't know what they would have buried in here with these people, whether it was gold or whatever. But a lot of these have been dug out. There's still some that aren't. But when you've got a tomb like this type of thing is sacred, and this really should be concreted off. It shouldn't be allowed to be in this condition. We're just gonna leave this guy in peace, but just in my heart, it hurts when somebody just comes out here trophy hunting or whatever, and I see human bones that may have been here for thousands, if not tens of thousands of years, just strewn out here. That's f***ed up. I'm really having a hard time being excited right now. As an archaeologist, you strive to protect things so that if you dig it out, you can put it back in the same place, or you can document where it was. And especially with human remains, they're almost always put back exactly where they were, because that's where their people wanted them to be. And it's pretty emotional when you see somebody screw shit like that up. I wish they'd protect this. This is such a freaking treasured, cool place.
And I know that was a little bit more somber than we usually are, but if you go there, you can go into the caves, just leave the burials alone, for God's sake. It still pisses me off. Like, I just watched it again and I'm pissed off again. So, on a lighter note, we just booked our first trip to India, which I'm super excited about. And I have decided to grow out my beard and my mustache, because we're going to be at the Pushkar Camel Festival, which has the world's largest mustache contest, and I'm gonna compete in it. Now, I don't think I'll probably have a chance, but maybe I'll get a little curly-like thing.
Oh.
If you guys think that that would be a good look with my new bald head, let me know down in the comments, because I would love to do that.
Yeah, no, I'm really looking forward to India. It's awesome, but I don't want to get too ahead of ourselves because we still have quite a few videos of Jordan, and you guys are not going to want to miss next week because we are finally going to be starting to talk about PETRA! Dude, PETRA is amazing, and you guys are not gonna wanna miss out on that.
Oh yeah, man, there were so many awesome things. I think we're gonna do it in the next 3 weeks. There's no way. We probably...
Yeah, for sure.
We walked for like 30 some miles.
Right.
First day alone.
But we don't want to talk too much about it. You guys
crazy.
need to check out next week and follow along, drop a like, drop a comment, and as always, find yourself on the journey.